The Nissan 350Z and the BMW 335i are two of the most iconic cars from the late 2000s, in my opinion. Both of these cars could be picked up anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000 in today's market, which is kind of insane when you're talking about really either of these cars. These don't look like $5,000 or $10,000 cars. Of course, that's my opinion. Today, I want to go through some of the differences between both of these cars and kind of tell you what platform would be better for what you're trying to do. On paper, both of these cars perform pretty similarly. Both have about 300 horsepower. Of course, the BMW comes with a twin turbo inline 6-cylinder, and the 350Z is a naturally aspirated V6. The 350Z, of course, is only rear-wheel drive, only comes in a coupe. You can get it in manual, you can get it in automatic. BMW, on the other hand, you can get all-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, 2 doors, 4 doors, manual, automatic. You can get a wagon version. There's so many different options when it comes to the 335i. It's kind of mind-boggling. We're gonna start out here in the Nissan now, getting into a little bit more of the details. And I just want to say to you guys, make sure you stick around to the end of this video, because I have a couple of videos I'm gonna link you guys that are a lot more in-depth on both of these cars. I know I'm not gonna be able to go over everything in today's video. The 350Z is a great platform for autocross, time attack, especially drifting. Like, these are cars that you've been driving in like every racing game growing up. Like, you've always had a 350Z to pick from. Never had a 335 option. That always made me a little sad. But the Nissan 350Z has proven over time that this car is absolutely amazing and perfectly set up for track events. It's missing everything except for that turbo from the factory, but I love this car. I love it for many different reasons. I feel like the driver experience in this car is very connecting. When you drive this car, you definitely don't feel like there's any computers involved in driving it. It's very much a driver's oriented car, especially when you compare it with that 6-speed. Cannot go wrong with that. Realistically, if you're like looking for something that's a little more reliable, something that'll get you from point A to point B, and you live in a state where you're not too worried about the winters, I would say that this car is actually a great option. Interior, in my opinion, slightly outdated, maybe like some of these materials and stuff, but like the look of it still looks pretty good here in 2023, if you ask me. I love these pods up here. I love the triple gauge stack out, and this is pretty cool. When you move the steering wheel, the gauges actually move with it. I think that's a pretty neat feature. Another thing with this car, you don't have back seats. There is a decent amount of trunk space, I would say. I mean, you could fit a couple sets of golf clubs back there. If you really need be, you could use your passenger seat as more storage. I've taken the seat out of the car actually to have more storage at some points, and there's a lot of room in here when you do that. Overall, I mean, this car has pretty much every basic feature you'd need. I mean, depending on the model you'll get like power heated seats, you'll get steering wheel controls, cruise control, limited slip diff, upgraded Bose sound system. There's tons of different upgrades you can get depending on what trim level of car you get, but I don't think you're exactly looking for amenities when you're looking to get into one of these cars. You kind of just probably want to drive and have fun while doing it. I guess I wouldn't be too worried about any of that. Reliability on this car, I would say, is pretty good actually. I've put 70,000 miles on this car. I beat the shit out of it. I've clutch kicked it. I've drifted it. I've money shifted it. I've done it, and like, this car still runs great. It is prone to abuse, and it loves to take it, to be honest. Other people could have different experiences, all right? I know a lot of you guys, you're going out there and you're getting the 170,000 mile 350Z or 335. Personally, I like to get cars with lower miles. I know they cost more money, but they're just less abused. In terms of aftermarket for this car, you could get really anything you wanted. There's every part that you could ever dream of or want for a 350Z. I mean, you think it, someone's made it. Great car for modding, great car for making it look better than it does from the factory, because in my opinion, the 350Z does not look amazing in its stock form. That is why we love all these aftermarket companies that have blessed us with all these amazing parts. Now, on the other hand, we have the 335i. This thing is a tuner's haven. This thing is beautiful, and let's go ahead and let's start right off with this interior. Personally, I think this is just miles ahead of the 350Z, but it's a BMW, not a Nissan, so I think that is to be expected. When we're talking about MSRP on these cars, I think the 350Z was like somewhere in the 30s. I think the 335i's were somewhere in the 50,000 range. So this is like a $20,000 more car, brand new, but we're talking about 16-year-old cars now. So the BMW 335i, I wanted this car since high school. I actually wanted this car before I got the 350Z, but I was having a lot of issues, getting in trouble, speeding, getting a lot of tickets. It came down to the fact that a twin turbo car was just not going to be an option for me at that point until I was more mature. So I ended up with the 350Z, but now I got the 335i, and I absolutely love this car. And I guess I didn't say it at this point, but these cars are both completely different. Even though on paper they look like they're pretty similar, they're not. The 335i is a lot more, it feels more like a computer. Like I was saying earlier, the 350Z doesn't really feel like a computer. The 335i kind of does. Granted, I have the automatic. I could not bring myself to spend like an extra $3 or $4 grand just to get a manual transmission. Like, that just wasn't worth it for me, especially considering I wanted this car to be my daily. That doesn't make sense because this car isn't the most reliable. I've had way more issues with this car than I've had with the 350Z in its 8 years. And I've only had this car for 2 years. And of those 2 years, I think I spent 6 to 8 months not driving it. And I've easily spent 5-6 times more maintaining this car than I have the 350Z, but the 350Z I went for appearance, this car I went for performance, and when you start to tune your 335i, it's going to start to have some issues. Besides that, it's really a good car. I mean, where else are you getting a twin turbo inline 6 that from the factory can handle like 600 or 700 horsepower on stock motor? Pretty unheard of even in modern cars, so I would say that this is a great option if you want to tune your car. In terms of like track use and like drifting and whatnot, like this is not the car I would be using for that. I personally think this car is too unreliable. However, if you want to go to the drag strip, great platform out of the box. You got your turbo set up and you have plenty of aftermarket parts that you could use to upgrade your motor and whatnot to make this car faster. Other than that, if you don't want to mod this car, it probably makes a way better daily than the 350Z because like I said in the beginning of this video, you got the all-wheel drive option if you want it, and you have a 2 or 4-door option if you want it, making this car all the more usable and all the more fun. Just like the 350Z from the factory, you can get everything you want in this car. This one comes with a sunroof, 350Z does not. Back seats, this car's back seats in the coupe. Now I don't know what it is with the BMW, I personally prefer this, but the steering is very heavy in these cars. A lot of people aren't used to that when they first get into a BMW. It takes like double the effort to turn this car versus the 350Z, and that's not just because of the all-wheel drive. I've had an E90 325i, same story, rear-wheel drive car. The steering in the BMWs is just heavy, but I really like that because like I actually feel like I'm driving something. The thing that I kind of find annoying about the 335 is that there is no digital speedometer on the car. Well, there actually is one, it's built in, and you got to go through like a series of trickery to actually unlock the feature, and I'm pretty sure that you have to do it again every time you get in the car. I don't know why they just didn't implement that from the factory. Like the 350Z has all its pods up here, and you have a digital speedometer here. It's just nice. But I guess now that I have the camera up here, I'm realizing that the 350Z did not come with a factory screen thing. I don't know what to call it. But yeah, I have an aftermarket head unit in that car, so it has like the GPS and everything. This car comes factory with it, and you can get the single hump option, which would completely remove this. I know a lot of 335i guys prefer the single hump. I don't mind the iDrive system. Like, you don't have to use it if you don't want to, so like there's really not much to complain about there. And it's like when I'm driving down roads that I don't know that well, especially at night, I love to be able to pull up the GPS. Just really overall, the 335i is a much more advanced car than the 350Z, and I think that's why they're a lot more unreliable. I guess really, what did you expect from BMW? This is their first twin turbo engine. It's only the second year of it at that. The 2007s were the first year. So I mean, they're bound to have issues. You're not going to get everything right on the first go. Another thing, the 335i are actually about 300 to 400 pounds heavier than the 350Zs when it comes to curb weight. And I guess I'll talk real quick about the performance of these cars, stock versus stock. The 335i actually feels a lot faster. It's got those twin turbos, so it's got a lot of low-end torque. In its stock form, it feels a lot faster than the 350Z, but it actually turns out if you have the HR model, the 07, 08 version of the 350Z, it's actually faster than the 335i. Stock versus stock speaking, I know I'm saying that a lot, but it's the unfortunate truth. I've raced 2 stock 335i's in my 350Z, and I won both times. Granted, they were automatic sedans. If they were manual coupes, who's to say what the results would have been? They were close races, but let's sum this up. The 335i is a much more tunable platform from the factory. but the 350Z is a very balanced chassis for pretty much any driving event or activity. It's really a hard choice when you would have to decide between either of these cars because they're both so fun to drive in their own different ways. So I'm gonna have to leave it up to you to decide. If I missed anything, let me know down in the comments. I'm sure there's a ton of things I forgot to mention in this video. If you guys haven't noticed yet, got myself a little hat. This is just something for me. I feel like the quality's not what I wanted, like some of the letters aren't lined up and stuff, but let me know down in the comments, and if there's enough interest, I will actually look into getting some of these made to sell to you guys, but as of right now, this is just for me, a little personal piece to keep me motivated. If you want to learn more about the 350Z or the BMW 335i, I'm going to link 2 more videos right here that are going to go a little more in depth for you.
Feeling like I ain't a boss, feeling like I ain't a baller. I can't complain. Shawty, she been in a lot. Shawty, she lost in the sauce. She on a plane. I just get brain and get guap. I just get brain and get guap. This life is insane. This life is a dream and I like. This shit I like it a lot. I see through the pain. This life is a dream and I like.